Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Hausdorff Reads the Bible. Today I'm reading Genesis 31, and the entirety of today's reading is a section, Jacob Flees from Laban. And today's interesting. I sort of thought that with a little bit of self-reflection there would have been a good lesson in today's reading, but unfortunately we wind up with a situation where we're just, Jacob, instead of learning a lesson, just kind of gets all self-righteous. That's my take on it anyway. Let's go ahead and check out the reading and see what you guys have to say. Verse 1. Now Jacob heard that the sons of Laban were saying, Jacob has taken all that was our father's, and from what our father's he has gained all this wealth. And Jacob saw that Laban did not regard him with favor as before. Then the Lord said to Jacob, Return to the land of your fathers and to your kindred, and I will be with you. So if you recall, last time Jacob and Laban made this deal where Laban was going to keep all of the, I guess, plain-colored or solid-colored animals of their herds, and Jacob was going to get all of the striped, spotted, and speckled. And then Laban tried to work things out so that everything would wind up being, not striped, spotted, and speckled. And Jacob tried to fix everything so that they would all be those things. And of course, Jacob has God on his side, so it worked out that way. But regardless, instead of just kind of divvying them up in a reasonable way, they set up this kind of peculiar way of divvying up the resources, and both of them were happy with it because they sort of saw an avenue to screw over the other one, and it just so happens that Jacob won. Reasonably so, I would say. Laban's sons kind of upset about this, angry that Jacob's getting all of their father's wealth. And I guess this is as good a time as any to bring this up. So I would think, now don't get me wrong, Laban is kind of a piece of crap here too. Like he tried to manipulate things, so it's not like he's blameless here. But Jacob is as well. Like Jacob is just as bad of a character as Laban. He just happened to have won, and now he's going to be playing the victim, saying like, oh, they're angry at me. We need to run away. And he's, I guess in the next paragraph, he's going to go on and on about how this was unfair. And I think it's a shame. It would have been a nice opportunity for him to be like, I should have just played fair, and then everyone would be happy, but now people are mad at me, and I'm having to flee, and this is a direct result of my action, And that's a good opportunity for a lesson. That doesn't happen at all. He just gets very self-righteous. So I think it's a shame. So I guess think about that as I'm reading this next section and see if you agree with me or if you think I'm just reading too much into it. But Guzik absolutely doesn't agree with me. He says the following. It wasn't that Jacob had taken anything belonging to Laban, rather it was that his wealth was increasing in proportion to Laban's wealth. The problem wasn't that Jacob stole, it was that Laban's sons were filled with envy. I don't think that's true at all. I mean, he's saying, look, they made this deal, it was working out in Laban's favor, suck it up, don't be so envious that it didn't work out in your favor. And I think that's kind of nonsense. If Jacob is really supposed to be the main character of this, book that's supposed to be a moral book, he should have been the bigger man, but he certainly didn't do that. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is a missed opportunity. And it's a shame that Guzik's take on this is what people get out of it. Okay, anyway, let's go ahead and dig in. I kind of jumped the gun on that particular ramble, but let's plow forward. Verse 4. So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah into the into the field where his flock was, and said to them, I see that your father does not regard me with favor as he did before, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that I have served your father with all my strength, yet your father has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. That was never mentioned before, but he was here for 20 years. I suppose that could have happened. But God did not permit him to harm me. If he said, the spotted shall be your wages, then all the flock bore spotted. And if he had said, the striped shall be your wages, then all the flock bore striped. Thus God has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. In the breeding season of the flock, I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream that the goats that mated with the flock were striped, spotted, and mottled. Then the angel of God said to me in a dream, Jacob. And I have said, Here I am. He said, Lift up your eyes and see all the goats that mate with the flock that are striped, spotted, and mottled, for I have seen all that Laban is doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar and made a vow to me. Now arise. The God of Bethel? That's interesting. I didn't notice that before, but I wonder if... Because, I know that there was polytheism pretty rampant when this was written. I wonder if that was supposed to be a different god originally, and it just kind of got molded, it kind of got melded together later. Might have to make a note of that and look into it for further study. Anyway, sorry about that. Verse 13. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar and made a vow to me. Now arise, go out from this land and return to the land of your kindred. Okay, so that was all Jacob talking about how these things had happened. And again, he's playing the victim. He's talking about this spotted and speckled thing. It definitely seems like a bit of revisionist history. He's just like, and then God set him up that way. And of course, according to his story before, it was that he had manipulated things so that they would be born with spots. And of course, it's ridiculous that it would have turned out that way. Having the sheep mate in front of carved sticks or whatever it was is never going to work. But that's what he was trying to do. And he thinks that that's the way it went. And according to this book, that is how it went. So what's the actual story? Anyway, let's see, moving forward. Let's see, where was I? Verse 14. Then Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, Is there any portion or inheritance left to us in our father's house? Are we not regarded by him as foreigners? For he has sold us, and he has indeed devoured our money. All the wealth that all the wealth that God has taken away from our father belongs to us and to our children. Now then, whatever God has said to you, do. So, I don't know if you quite followed that. It took me a couple of readings to really understand what it's saying. But, or at least I think I understand it. Basically, it seemed to be saying they were agreeing with him. They were mad at their father for giving him, for wasting their inheritance, I guess. And so they're saying, yeah, let's go ahead and follow you and let's get out of here. So basically, they're agreeing. Okay. Verse 17. So Jacob arose and set his sons and his wives on camels. He drove away all his livestock, all his property that he had gained, the livestock in his possession that he had acquired in Paddan Aram, to go to the land of Canaan to his father Isaac. Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel stole his father's household gods. So Laban went to shear his sheep, which sounds a bit innocuous, but I know his sons are kind of on a large amount of land based on something that was said in the last chapter. So let's just assume that these sheep that he's shearing are, let's say, a day or so's travel away. So he's going to shear his sheep, but it's a trip. It's not like he's going out to the barn. Okay, anyway. Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel stole her father's household gods. And Jacob tricked Laban the Aramean by not telling him that he intended to flee. Now, I thought that tricked was a little weird, but there's a footnote. And the footnote says, in Hebrew, this is stole the heart of. So, and I think that sounds better. So, and Jacob stole the heart of Laban, the Aramean, by not telling him that he intended to flee. That seems to make a lot more sense to me. He's not really tricking him as much as he's sort of, taking his daughters and leaving without telling him. All right. Anyway. He fled with all that he had, and arose and crossed the Euphrates, and set his face towards the hill country of Gilead. When it was told Laban on the third day that Jacob had fled, he took his kinsman with him and pursued him for 7 days and followed close after him into the hill country of Gilead. But God came to Laban. Okay, so 3 days passed. So that's why I was saying it. This sheep that he's shearing must be days travel away. I don't know how many. If it's a huge flock, it could take him a day to travel. Shear all the sheep, gather all the stuff, and then days travel back, something like that. Either that or they're on a massive estate and he didn't notice, but that doesn't really seem to fit. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. So he pursued. It took 7 days, but they caught up. So Jacob had a 3 days head start, but, you know, he's got flocks that he's bringing with him. Obviously, they're going to be slower. Laban can be on, you know, just a couple of guys on horses, and but it took him 7 days to close the gap. Whatever, they caught up. And he got a dream saying, let's see, but God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream by night and said to him, "Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad." Strange phrase. Don't say anything to him, either good or bad. That's weird. That just sounds weird. I mean, I could say don't threaten him or something. Whatever. Verse 25. And Laban overtook Jacob. And now Jacob had pitched his tent in the hill country, and Laban with his kinsmen pitched tents in the hill country of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, so yeah, Laban caught up to him. Laban said to Jacob, "What have you done, that you have tricked me and driven away my daughters, like captives of the sword? Why did you flee secretly and trick me, and did not tell me, so that I might have sent you away with mirth and song, with tambourine and lyre? And why did you not permit me to kiss my sons and my daughters farewell? Now you have done foolishly. It is in my power to do you harm, but the God of your fathers spoke to me last night, saying, 'Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad.'" So he's saying, well, first of all, he makes kind of a valid point. He's like, if you're going to take my daughters and grandchildren away, it'd be nice if I could throw a party instead of just come home and you're gone. Fair enough. But Laban is also not the nicest guy, and it's reasonable for Jacob to think that he's not going to allow him to do that. So there's a certain bit that I think Laban kind of has a point, and there's a certain bit where I think he's just not being very realistic about their relationship up to this point, about the fact that he's been kind of a piece of crap. So yeah, that's my sort of varied thoughts on that. So yeah, again, the characters in this story don't seem to be very self-aware. All right, verse 30. "And now you have gone away because you longed greatly for your father's house, but why did you steal my gods?" And so Laban's like, okay, fine, so you ran away, but why did you take my gods, which, you know, presumably is their idols that, let's assume that the person writing this story thinks that it's, you know, it's his goal, you know, it's his idol or whatever, but it's not actually a god, whatever. Jacob answered and said to Laban, "Because I was afraid, for I thought that you would take your daughters from me by force. Anyone with whom you find your gods shall not live. In the presence of our kinsmen, point out what I have that is yours and take it." Now Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. All right, so he says, you know, the reason I stole your daughters is because I was scared of you, but of course Rachel did this, stole the gods in secret. He doesn't know anything about it, and he says, go ahead and find it. All right, verse 33. "So Laban went into Jacob's tent and into Leah's tent and into the tent of the two female servants, but he did not find them. And he went out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's. Now Rachel had taken the household gods and put them in the camel's saddle and sat on them. Laban felt all about the tent, but did not find them. And he said to the father, 'Let not my lord be angry that I cannot..." And she said to her father, "Let not my lord be angry that I cannot rise before you, for the way of women is upon me." So he searched, but did not find the household gods. Okay. So in case you didn't follow that, here's what just happened. Laban's looking for the golden idol, or the god, which I'm picturing as a golden idol. That may or may not be correct. Now, Leah, wait, was it Leah or Rachel? It must have been Rachel. Yeah, it looks like it's Rachel. So Rachel, who had stolen the idol in the first place, put it in the camel saddlebags and sat on them, and then said, again, "The way of woman..." Wait, where is it? Let's see here. "The way of woman is upon me." Yeah, so she's on her period, and so they're like, all right, I'm not going to look in that saddlebag. Which apparently means that if you're a woman smuggler at this time, it's easy. Because you just say you're on your period, and all the guys are like, I can't I'm not even going to search you if you're on your period. This is gross. So I find that picture hilarious. That totally works 100%. And I also, I don't know if this is going to come back. This is because that's the end of the story as far as this chapter goes. That's the end of the story as far as the stolen god. I hope it comes back later, otherwise it seems like a horrible thing. When I read this the first time, as soon as he said, you know, whoever has the idol, you know, you can kill him, or whatever, I thought, oh great, now they're going to kill Rachel because she has the idol, and it's going to be like, well, Jacob said to kill her, and, you know, it's my daughter, but I have to follow that, and, you know, it's going to be some dumb thing. But that's not the way it went down. So we'll have to see if that happens later on. Presumably it's going to come back, otherwise it seems just like a random, unimportant detail. Just telling us that periods are gross. I don't know what other purpose this particular story has. Alright, verse 36. Actually, hang on. There was an interesting thing from Guzik on this. He said, because, you know, like I said, it just seems like a random thing. So he says this about Rachel stealing the idol. Rachel took the father's household idols. She may have wanted them, perhaps because she worshipped these idols and did not want to be without them. Perhaps she did not want her father to inquire of them, using them as tools of divination to catch them, as he may have done previously. Or perhaps it was because such idols were often used as deeds to property, she thought she was taking her inheritance. So that's interesting. You know, it's not really clear why she took this idol. And Guzik gives a couple of possibilities, which, I don't know, sound reasonable to me. I don't know. All right. So moving forward on the reading, verse 36. Then Jacob became angry and berated Laban. Jacob said to Laban, "What is my offense? What is my sin that you have hotly pursued me?" You stole his family. Anyway, you have felt through all my goods. What have you found of all your household goods? Set it here before my kinsmen and your kinsmen, that they may decide between us two. These 20 years I have been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not miscarried, and I have not eaten the rams of your flocks. What was torn by wild beast I did not bring to you. I bore the loss of it myself. From my hand you required it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. There I was. By day the heat consumed me, and the night by cold, and my sleep fled from my eyes. These 20 years I have been in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flock. And you have changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had not been on my side, surely now you would have sent me away empty-handed. God saw my affliction and the labors of my hands, and rebuked you last night. So he basically, again, with absolutely no self-reflection, says, what did I do? And again, it's not like Laban is like an innocent party here. It's just that Jacob could have learned some lessons. He didn't have to stoop to Laban's level. But he repeatedly did. Alright, verse 43. Then Laban answered him and said to Jacob, "The daughters are my daughters, the children are my children, the flock are my flock, and all that you see is mine. But what can I do this day for these my daughters, or for their children whom they have borne? Come now, let us make a covenant, you and I." So yeah, basically he answers him by saying, "You stole my family." "Come now, let us make a covenant, you and I, and let it be a witness between you and me." So Jacob took a stone and set it as a pillar. And Jacob said to his kinsmen, "Gather stones." And they took stones and made a heap, and they ate there by the heap. Laban called it Yegar Sadutha, but Jacob called it Galeed. And there's footnotes there, and it's the same word in different languages, basically. Laban said, "This heap is a witness between you and me today." Therefore named it Galeed and Mizpah. For he said, "The Lord watch between you and me when we are out of one another's sight. If you oppress my daughters, or if you take wives beside my daughters, although no one is with us, see, God is witness between you and me." So he says, you've got my daughters, don't take any more wives. except their servants, I guess. Verse 51. Then Laban said to Jacob, "See this heap and the pillar which I have set between you and me. This heap is a witness, and the pillar is a witness. And that I will not pass over this heap to you, and you will not pass over this heap and this pillar to me to do harm." So they're saying, look, there's this place that's between the places that we live. We're going to we're going to set a pact between us that we're not going to pass this to attack the other person. So Basically a non-aggression pact. The God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us. So Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac, and Jacob offered a sacrifice in the hill country and called his kinsmen to eat bread. They ate bread and spent the night in the hill country. Early in the morning Laban arose and kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them. Then Laban departed and returned home. So a few interesting things there. It kind of felt to me like there was a lot more. It was a lot wordier than it needed to be. It felt kind of long. Hopefully it was entertaining. I try to insert some interesting commentary along the way, but sometimes I feel a little hamstrung by the material. All right, anyway, I think overall I think that turned out all right. Still, I think my biggest takeaway is that there were some missed opportunities by the writers here. Jacob could have learned some lessons, but instead he just kind of played the victim. It's kind of a shame. Oh well. Well, as always, thank you very much for listening, and I will see you next time.